I'm Dr. Al, and I like to think of myself as a shellfish psychologist, and I'm going to show you why. Over the past 2 decades, I've been studying the impact of climate change and other human modifications on our unique aquatic ecosystem. And using new technology, I've developed a way of us humans to communicate with the fauna. We've deployed these communication stations in some of our most modified habitats. And today we're off to talk to some mussels to find out how they feel about the modifications we've made to their environment. But before we begin, a little bit about my backyard. So where is my backyard? Well, this is me here in good old Perth. And this green oasis you see is southwestern Australia. And this region has been separated from the east for over millions of years by vast deserts, which means most of our species aren't found anywhere else on Earth. It is also recognised as one of 25 global biodiversity hotspots, and it's the only one in Australia. Unfortunately, this region is also recognised as a global warming hotspot, and the oceans are warming at a greater rate than 90% of global oceans. To top this off, southwestern Australia is also drying at a faster rate than any other region in Australia. Consequently, the southwest is also recognised as one of the most endangered ecoregions in the world. Today, we're heading south to the Serpentine River to see how climate change has exacerbated other human modification. This is part of the Serpentine River, one of 3 major rivers that flows into the Peel Harvey estuary, covering 131 square kilometres. This is the largest, most diverse estuarine complex in the southwest. And Perth has just sweltered through another record-breaking summer. And last year's rainfall in this catchment was just over half of the long-term average. And this dam is now just over 1/3 full, which is around 25% less than this time last year. The dam has only overflowed once since its construction in the 1960s. So how do downstream habitats get their water? In winter, water is largely from runoff from the catchment downstream of the dam, which is almost entirely cleared for farming. In summer and autumn, streams are fed by groundwater and also by water released from the dam, but these only serve parts of the river. Water released from the main dam first flows into a smaller dam, which is also topped up with water from a desalination plant over 100 kilometres away. The water releases of up to 4.5 million litres per day during summer and autumn are from 2 points. The first is just upstream of Serpentine Falls, and the second at Hall Road. The amount of water released is dependent on flows at Hall Road and also a gauging station downstream of Lowlands Nature Reserve, where we have one of our mussel comms stations. So why are these releases so important? Although not of high diversity are freshwater fishes that comprise 11 species, 9 of these are not found anywhere else in the world. In addition, there's also an endemic mussel, the Carter's freshwater mussel, and this species is listed as vulnerable by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. Let's make our way down to these comms stations and make some stops along the way. So let's go visit the smaller dam, which is what I'd say if we were allowed access. Okay, plan B, Serpentine Falls, here we come. This is Serpy Falls. As you can see, it's quite picturesque, and there's some water flowing down the rockfall, but what about 100 metres downstream? On the bridge just downstream of the Serpentine Weir, and we can see just under the bridge here that there's not very much water flowing at all. Look. Next stop, Hall Road. This is a gauging station, and it's also one of the water release points. Flow at this station drops below 250,000 litres per day. Up to 4.5 million litres of water can be released. And the releases of water are coming from that pipe. So this means that the water is already chlorinated and is being released into the environment. There's a really strong smell of chlorine in the air. So we're just going to go in and have a look and see if we can see any mussels. Carter's freshwater mussels really don't tolerate chlorine at all. Chlorine, of course, is used to treat water for bacteria, and no mussels to be found. Next up, we'll head down to one of our mussel comm stations, which is also the other gauging station for determining water release volume. We're about 20 kilometres downstream of Serpentine Falls, and this is one of our muscle communication stations. It's funded by the Alcoa Foundation. Today we're here with our partners, Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, who are downloading some of their traditional water quality parameters from this logger over here. This is also one of the flow gauging stations that's used to trigger upstream water releases. So as you can see, there's no water flowing over this point, so it's much less than the 250,000 litres per day that would trigger a 4 million litre water release from the dam. Well, what do the mussels think of all this? Well, let's ask them. Because mussels are filter feeders, they continuously taste the water for food. If they taste something they don't like, they'll shut shop. These comm stations live stream that data to the network. We use these data to assess whether the mussels at a location are happy, and this is based on two criteria: the average time the mussels spend open and the average closure time. So how do these guys score? Well, let's bring out the happy mussel meter. Well, the average time open was 44%. This gives them a score of 2 out of 5. And the average closure time, a little over 6 hours. This gives them a 1 out of 5 for a total of 3 out of 10, which means that these guys aren't too happy at all. Now it's time to head to our other mussel communication station. But before we do, it's lunchtime, and I could eat the crutch out of a low-flying duck. So let's go check out the local and see what their palmies are like. And the Parmageddon meter's gone off the charts. Let's take a look at this. Let's break it down. Chicken, decent amount of cheese, nice thick, really well cooked. It's a 5 out of 5. Chips, not too greasy, good size. That's a 3 out of 3. And the salad, 1 out of 1. And the service, well, there's no table service, so give them a half out of 1 for that. So that's a score of 9.5 for the chicken palmy at the Ravenswood Hotel. We just drove across this bridge on our way to the other mussel comms site, and we noticed that the river here is pretty much all dried up. We're going to go down and have a look to see if there's any dead carters. So we're now down about 30 kilometres from the Serpentine Dam. As you can see here, we're actually walking on the riverbed. We do have some areas which are still moist, and some carters at least are able to bury, and they might survive over the summer as long as they stay moist and in the shade. So if we have a look down in here, perhaps we'll be able to find some. Hey, there's one right there. Okay, so this one's not huge. It's probably around 15 to 20 years old though, so these guys are really long-lived. So it's quite devastating when you come across the situations like this where the water has disappeared from the river, and we're seeing these mass mortalities, carters right along the bank. So today it's about 30 degrees, it's mid-autumn, and I don't see us getting any rainfall for the next 2 months or so. So this situation is going to get worse, and these pools, which are actually just extensions of the groundwater table, are going to get lower and lower until they get regenerated by rainfall. So we've got a little bit of activity going on in this pool, so we're just going to sneak up and have a look. It looks like these are noxious mosquito fish, and these guys are tail nippers, so they can actually remove the whole tail of our native fish. The oxygen levels in these pools overnight will reach 0, which is lethal to many of our native fish, whereas the mosquito fish can extract their oxygen from the surface. Okay, this time for real. Let's make our way to our last stop. And here we are at our final destination, and we're only a couple of kilometres downstream of the bridge, where the river has almost completely dried up. And as you can see, it's a very similar situation to what we have here. This station was deployed a few months ago when water levels were much higher. This isn't the only issue here. Like many cows, these guys have direct access to the river, and cows standing in water poo 5 times more than normal. So how much poo is this? Well, the rate of change of poo with respect to time equals the amount of poo in minus poo out. If we have 200 cows pooping in the river once per day, that equates to a truckload of poo. I almost had to use my PhD for that one. So how do these guys score on the happy mussel meter? Well, let's ask them. The average time open was 62%. This gives them a score of 3 out of 5, and the average closure time, 2.5 hours. This gives them a 2.5 out of 5 for a total of 5.5 out of 10. So not too happy at all. So there we have it. Are the mussels happy with the changes we've made to their environment? And the answer, of course, is they're not too impressed at all. The Muscle Musterer.